What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. The Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app is the only legal sportsbook for whenever you're in Florida. It's also live in Arizona, Ohio, New Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, and Colorado. Coming soon to more states, too. Sign up today and you could win $150 in bonus bets. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you not only get your winnings, but you also get $150 in extra bonus bets. Plus, Hard Rock Bet offers new promos daily, plus big legendary reward drops every single Thursday. It's like gifts under the tree. So whenever you're listening, just open the app up and check out what you've got waiting for you. Download the Hard Rock Bet now and make your first deposit. Okay, back at it again after a crazy holiday week where we missed him. We were busy. We had a lot of stuff going on, but he's back, and he's going to help me because I'm not quite as – I'm definitely not even close to as sick as him. Like, we're going to dive into some college football because this weekend we might be coming down the home stretch of these conference championship games, but we do have them this week, and there's some big implications, and there are a couple games that have teams that are going to make it that I know nothing about, beside that their coaches are clearly pretty good because they just got big jobs. But back here with Stuckey, all of our lines here are presented by our friends at Hard Rock Bet. And, Stuckey, I'm looking at a game, and I know you know a lot about these teams, and I only know a lot about Tulane because I've been hearing about their coach forever. I only know about North Texas. Now, these two teams have been good, especially Tulane. Now, this is their second coach that they have just put. Willie Fritz was their coach. He went to Houston. And now Summerall, who, by all accounts, is pretty legit. I know, Florida is a little hesitant, their fan base, because they're saying it's Billy Napier 2.0. This, to me, feels a little different. I mean, this guy, I don't know. I'm buying stock in this guy, again, just based on a couple press conferences and texting around. And it did also feel like he could have taken 3 different SEC jobs if he wanted. Arkansas, definitely Auburn, in Florida. Now, both these guys, North Texas coach went to Oklahoma State, right? And the winner of this game is in. So these guys have been, I don't want to say just dipping their toes in, not as focused, but like they've had press conference, they've been flying around. Though Oklahoma State hired him, a couple weeks ago. So it's a little different than this. Summerall was he introduced on Monday?
Yeah, he had to do a presser. Morris hasn't done any of that. I would have liked Summerall went to Kentucky. He used to coach at Kentucky. He was a GA, was an linebacker coach, co-DC. I don't know, 6-7 years ago. I would have liked Kentucky to get him. So I'm a believer in Summerall as well. I think it was a good hire. That was like who I wanted the Kentucky to get after the inevitable. That's what I've been saying for like the past couple of years after the inevitable Stoops departure. But yeah, the funny thing is, I'll try to give you a high level view of how all these games play into the college football playoff, because it is pretty interesting. I think inevitably it's going to end up leading to a expanded college football playoff with 16 teams, but that's a discussion for another day. One interesting nugget is the quarterbacks for Tulane and North Texas last year are the starting quarterbacks in the ACC Championship game. Mensah came from Tulane and Morris came from North Texas. North Texas, their quarterback now is this kid, Drew Mestamaker, who didn't start a single varsity game in high school, walked on at North Texas, and leads the nation in passing yards. The North Texas offense is electric. I mean, this team can put up 50 on anybody. And
was like Cade Klubnik the guy starting over? I mean, how does he not start a game? Was he at a powerhouse program? How's that even possible?
I'm trying to think who.
Sorry to put you on the spot here. I just think that's insane to not what you would have to be if you're a college level quarterback to be on a team with a blue chip quarterback, or like the coach's son.
I'm trying to think.
Matt Castle of high school football.
No, this guy. I think it was Deuce Adams. It wasn't anyone who's like turned out to anything. But he didn't start. He had a walk on at North Texas. But he leads the nation in passing yards. And North Texas also has an electric. I mean, their offense, you watch their offense, it is Morris is considered like a quarterback whisperer, offensive guru. But Caleb Hawkins, their freshman running back, is also a stud. So they're really well balanced. Their defense, you can run on them a bit, but they hired a defensive coordinator from Sam Houston State last year, brought him in with a lot of the Sam Houston players. And Sam Houston's defense last year was really good. Defense, like predicated on its positionless. They kind of want to force turnovers. And they're pretty good against the pass. But their defense is much improved because in recent seasons, the North Texas offense has been electric, but their defense has been really bad. Now their defense is much more respectable. Tulane's quarterback is Jake Retzlaff, got kicked out of BYU and then came over to Tulane. North Texas is the better team, but this is on the road. Tulane gets to host this game. The winner of that game will be in the college football playoff. The 5 highest rated conference champions get automatic bids. So you have your SEC, you have your Big 12, you have your Big 10, and then you're going to have the winner of the American between North Texas and Tulane. And then if Virginia beats Duke, and Duke has 5 losses on the season, but if Virginia beats Duke, they're the ACC champ. Duke's defense has been horrendous. I mean, the drop-off from last year to this year has been stunning. Their defense can't stop anybody. I mean, they won last week. They won a crazy tiebreaker. It really should be Miami here. But if Virginia wins, they're in. If Duke wins, I don't know if they're necessarily in. They have 5 losses. They lost to Tulane. They lost to UConn. So it has not been a great season for Duke.
Well, they should not be in. Win or lose.
Agreed. Now, could I see the committee saying, all right, well, now they got to win over a ranked Virginia team. Their schedule was harder than JMU because JMU is the other team. If Duke wins, many presume that JMU, assuming JMU beats Troy, that JMU would then go in. And JMU's a 23-point favorite. I actually bet JMU against Troy. It's a really good matchup. Troy cannot run the ball. Their pass protection, they lost both their tackles early in the season. They have 2 freshman tackles. JMU can really get after the quarterback. Troy's not a very good team. And this is at home. JMU knows they need to run it up. And they have run it up a number of times this year. I think they have 5 league wins by more than 25 points on the season. They're going to keep their foot on the gas. So I did bet JMU, but it's a fascinating discussion between JMU and if Duke wins. Now, the other fascinating part of this entire weekend is, let's say BYU, if BYU loses, they're out. And then all of a sudden you have Notre Dame and Miami right next to each other in the rankings line. So would they then say, oh, well, the head-to-head now matters and put Miami in? Another interesting angle is they might also, because there's politics involved in this, they might also do that because, say, Duke wins, and they might say to the ACC, okay, you don't have a team in, so we'll put Miami in. Discussions on the back end, and then Notre Dame gets bumped out. I think Notre Dame's one of the best 5 teams in the country, but if they lost to Miami, they don't have great wins on their resume, and they're not going to play this weekend.
If they had 2 spots, they would just put those 2 teams in, but more than likely it's just going to be the 1 spot, so they're kind of screwed.
Yes, but if BYU wins, they might bump them both out. That might be what the committee is rooting for. I think that would be bad for, I think Miami is a top 10 team overall. I think Notre Dame's a top 5 team. I think the actual bracket and the playoff will be better off if both those teams are in it instead of, 2 group of 5 teams. But it is what it is. If you're a Notre Dame fan, you're rooting for, you want to root for Boise State, because it's a small point, but Notre Dame did beat Boise earlier this year. Boise State now is hosting the Mountain West Championship game against UNLV. That was a 4-way tiebreaker that came down to computers. But Boise State's getting its quarterback, Maddox Madsen, back this week. So that's another it could be like a feather in the cap of Notre Dame saying how, hey, one of our wins also was against the Mountain West champion. Now the Mountain West is way down this year. They have no chance of getting in the college football playoff, but fascinating storylines across the board. And then you have some rematches in some really good games. Texas-Tech-BYU, mentioned that. Texas-Tech's 12.5, 13-point favorite. I don't know if BYU can move the ball on Texas Tech. Now, granted, the first meeting was in wind outdoors in Lubbock. This will be indoors in Jerry World. But you just can't run on Texas Tech, and nobody can run on Texas Tech. Their defensive line is like top of the SEC caliber with what they did out in the portal. Their linebackers are really good, and I'm not sure BYU can block them. So we'll see. I mean, they could barely move the ball in the first meeting. Georgia-Alabama rematch should be fascinating. Georgia arguably should have won that first game. Alabama has some key injuries. Georgia lost its center last week, and for some reason they couldn't score on Georgia Tech. Maybe Drew Bobo, their center, is that important, but their run game cratered without him. But they should have won that first game. I mean, they averaged almost 7 yards per play, and they dropped a bomb that would have won the game. They had the ball 4th and 1. Alabama didn't score in the second half of that game. This game is pretty. If everything goes according to, and look, Kirby's been owned by Alabama. I mean, he's 1-7 against Alabama. If everything goes according to how these matchups have gone and how every Georgia and most Alabama games go, this game is pretty easy to predict. Alabama jumps out to a lead. They're really good in the first quarters under DeBoer. They usually have a really good script. We've seen them jump out against Georgia a number of times. Georgia also falls behind whenever they play a competent opponent, and then they come back because Kirby Smart is the best in-game adjuster in college football. So what makes the most sense here is Alabama gets out to lead, and then I'll be looking to bet Georgia live. And then you have Ohio State, Indiana, 2 undefeateds playing in Indianapolis. I think there's going to be a very pro-heavy Indiana crowd. Obviously, the location. Ohio State fans probably don't want to travel to this. I mean, they're out for national championships. They probably want to book tickets to a college football playoff game. This game means a lot more to Indiana. So I could see taking the points with Indiana. I'm not sure like Ohio State needs to or wants to show everything here. Indiana probably does. Like, hey,
how would Ryan Day at this point? And once he got the Michigan thing off his back, this game really doesn't mean much.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of an emotional letdown too after that Michigan game. They've been load managing all year. They're the slowest paced team in college football. They basically played 2 fewer games than most teams. If you look at the snaps that they've played, they've been load managing for the college football playoff all season. It's really smart. I think it's eventually going to pay off. So I could see taking the points there. That Indiana, just on the intangibles, I think the line is about right. But I think the loser of that game will still get a bye. The winner will get the 1 seed. And I don't think it's that big of a difference. Depending on how everything breaks, the 1 seed could end up being worse than the 2. The 3 seed as of right now would be the one that you want because you would play the winner of Ole Miss without a coach and one of the group of 5 champions. So most likely Ole Miss without a coach. That's a lot better than potentially Notre Dame or Alabama. So it's not a big difference between the 1, 2, or 3. If Ohio State loses and doesn't get the 1, I mean, they're going to try and want to win, but it's not the end of the world if they don't get the 1 seed. But yeah, some really, really, really good games. The other game, the MAC championship, I kind of like the under a bit there. And then you got the Conference USA on Friday night, Kennesaw, Jacksonville State, another rematch from earlier in the season. So it should be a fun weekend. I think there's just a lot of committee storylines and how everything's going to break. Notre Dame fans are going to be tuned in, Miami fans. And I think what this is all going to eventually lead to is an expanded playoff. And then probably, I don't know if conference championship weekend will look like it does in the future. What it currently looks like in the future. Like, there's going to be something on this weekend because there's too much money, but there might be like playing games, right? And that would make more sense if you have an expanded 16-team field. So you would have like this weekend, you would have, maybe Vandy is playing someone, Miami is playing someone, Alabama, Notre Dame, right? All these teams are playing, Texas, and then that helps decide who the final spots go to in the expanded field. So, yeah, college football, it's going to continue to change on an almost annual basis. I do think they got it right with that the automatic conference champions don't automatically get a bye, which was obviously the wrong way to go about it last year. Imagine this year. I mean, you would have like Duke or North Texas or James Madison with a bye,
That'd be a
which
disaster.
would be something. And then all of a sudden you'd want to be in that five. The 5 seed would be the best place to be. But so I do think they got it right. But yeah, it's a changing game. It's going to continue to change every week, but should be an exciting weekend.
Well, because look, Penn State lost to Oregon last year, and they ended up getting Boise, SMU back-to-back games, right? Or
Oregon,
SMU,
I said
Boise.
it all week. Oregon should lose that game on purpose, and they would have been better off. They would have had an easier path. Who knows how it would have played out, but they would have had an easier route to the national championship instead of getting blown out by Ohio State, who was the best team. But at least that's no longer a thing. Whereas you don't know. Like now, there's no incentive to lose because you just don't know. Like you can't say if you're Ohio State, all right, well, if we lose, we'll be the 2 or 3 and we're going to play this team. It's a lot easier to project that if you know you're going to be the 5 and you got to play a team that has a bye you're going to be double-digit favorite over. So they did get that right. But yeah, it's crazy world of college football continues to change.
Honestly, the most interesting part about the Indiana-Ohio State game, given that, like, at the end of the day, there's just not that much on the line, given that they're both going to get to buys. The GM, John Spytek of the Raiders, Andrew Berry, assuming he's going to keep his job in Cleveland, and the Jets' new GM, like, they got to be in attendance at that game. Like, if I'm those guys, I got to be in attendance. I mean, you got to give Ryan Day a lot of credit. The Matt Patricia hire, the guy had been a lifetime NFL guy. You just never quite know. Though, wink, you've seen guys, they transition relatively well. It couldn't have gone much better for Matt Patricia. So you get Matt Patricia against Fernando, even if they end up losing, 30-20, if he leads several touchdown drives and looks competent, you'd feel pretty good about his stock and kind of solidifying. Maybe Will Stein leaving to Kentucky is kind of signaling that Dante Moore might come out as well. I don't know to put that much stock in that. I mean, he got what, $35 million. He got a lot of money. And I didn't know his dad had played at Kentucky too. So he clearly has roots. He played at Louisville. So it's not really that crazy of a jump, even though to me, I'm like, wait, if you're Will Stein, why would you take that job? But I do think Fernando can do a lot for his draft stock. Obviously, it's already good, but I just mean to like these data points and these check marks. Like this is as good as it gets. I mean, he answered the bell after he threw that pick 6 at Oregon and came right back down. He's had some incredible moments. He's clearly very physically gifted, but this is the type moment. I mean, if he were to, I mean, if they were to upset him and he looks awesome against this defense, and awesome could be a 21-17 win. I mean, it's not like he's going to throw 4 or 5 touchdowns more than likely. Hell, he throws 2 touchdowns. That'd be pretty impressive. I mean, how many don't they average like under 10 points a game against Big Ten opponents? I mean, no one scores on these guys.
No one scored more than 16 all year. Now, I mean, they're the best defense in the country, but I will say, like, they haven't really been tested. This will be their biggest test for both Mendoza and the Ohio State defense. And it's on a fast track. But you could say the same thing about the Ohio State offense, which has really just been kind of managing time. Like they're on a fast track now with Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, the best wide receiver duo in the country. So, yeah, we'll learn a lot about both teams because Ohio State, I mean, the best offenses they played this year were like Washington, who had offensive line injuries. And we've seen Washington struggle against better competition this year. And then Texas, who early in the year, their offense was a mess against everyone. So, and then Michigan's offense this year just isn't it, especially away from home. So this will be the biggest test. Now, Mendoza, I mean, he was only 8 of 15 for 100 yards against Purdue. He should have had a couple of interceptions. He struggled a bit against Penn State. He struggled a bit against Iowa. Now, he's had some big moments, and I do think he's very good. I don't think he's like should be like a number 1 overall pick in the NFL. I think this quarterback class is pretty weak. But he's going to go in the top 5 or top 10. It's a very good test for him. I will say one of the things you have to question about Ohio State is I think that Ryan Day would love if this game goes down to the wire. Because the one thing Ohio State hasn't done is been in like a close game with a freshman quarterback, right? Like everything's been easy. And Indiana has been. They were in a dogfight at Iowa, close game against Oregon. They had to have a drive to win it against Penn State. The one thing I am confident in is that Indiana this year is much more capable than the team last year at competing with the teams full of 5 stars. They're much better in the trenches. And they proved that at Oregon. And that win on the road in Eugene, not an easy place to play, has aged very well because Oregon has won every game and looked good. And Oregon was healthy then as well. So Indiana can compete in the trenches here. The one remaining question for Ohio State is that, like, how will Sayin play if it's a close game? They just haven't been tested yet. So I think they would like that. And yeah, Patricia's been phenomenal. Obviously, they have great players. There's NFL players on both teams. So yeah, your point on the scouts is spot on. But I was wrong on Patricia, and he's been great schematically, and he seems to get along with Day better. They like it seems like they really like each other. And Ryan Day has been a covering machine. This is the -- 1 team in the country since they lost to Michigan last year. It's almost hard to believe. They're 14-1-1 against the spread. They've only not covered one game over their past 16, and they're #1 in the country. It's a team everyone wants to bet. Market just hasn't been able to catch up to them. So yeah, this is it's a game I'm looking forward to watching. But as far as the big implications, doesn't really mean much. It might, based on how these teams fall and how the rest of the bracket falls, but I do think it means a lot more to Indiana because they can really say, no one can say, like, you don't belong anymore. You have wins over Oregon and Ohio State. So, yeah, should be a fun one.
This is crazy to say because, he feels like an NFL guy. He'd want to go back. But for some reason, my YouTube algorithm, I get some like Matt Patricia interviews. He's always, now again, they're winning, they're dominating. He's had a loaded program. He feels much more like kind of lighthearted. He's smiling a lot. Obviously, he's lost a bunch of weight. Maybe he's found his calling. Like he's really enjoyed, like you said, they're always hugging and smiling. Like he doesn't feel like the Belichickian, grumpy kind of a-hole that went to Detroit. There's like a looseness to him. I mean, as we record this, Penn State doesn't have a coach. I don't know. I mean, this guy's been an NFL head coach before. Schematically, he's clearly a really bright guy. And, recruiting wise, I mean, he's got a year apprenticeship at Ohio State. Like he's seen the blueprint of what you do. Like I just keep an eye. Maybe if you're him, you just stay in college. There's a ton of money in it. Maybe he's just found a sweet spot because no one's hiring him to be an NFL head coach. And like Ohio State will pay as much as the NFL team. So I think he's going to be there for a little bit unless he wants to become a head coach in college. Like that might be the route.
I agree. I think that's the route he might end up taking. But as of right now, yeah, it seems like he's in a good spot.
Let's transition. And let's start with a game that when they were 1-5 and they were still favored to win the division, it did feel a little crazy. And if I would have told you that they would have been 6-6 at that moment, you'd have been like, okay, they battled back, but they would have probably been a game or two back. Turns out the Steelers are a mess and like legitimately circling the drain. And I understand, it's your squad. They looked awful on Thursday night. The turnovers, it was just a disastrous performance. But I'm going to take the same mindset it comes. If J.J. McCarthy's playing, I'm going to short the Vikings. I don't really care who they're playing unless they're playing the Titans. I'm going to take the same logic when it comes to the Steelers. This game's in Baltimore, and I understand the Steelers have played Lamar well over the years. But this Lamar actually is a little different player than the guy, like kind of banged up. He's not moving around quite as well. This is more like this does feel like a lot of points, but it's just a bet against the Steelers. And I'm going to hammer the Ravens -6, honestly, is like one of my favorite bets on the board.
Yeah, as a Ravens fan, I'm programmed to expect that this game will end 20-17. And it's just, that's how all these games end. I mean, if you look these Harbaugh and Tomlin have met in 16 years where they're both there 32 times in the regular season. 26 of them have been decided by one possession. When either is an underdog of 3 or more points, the underdog has gone 19-3-3 against the spread, 86.5%. And Tomlin as a dog has always been good, but this isn't the same Steelers team. Their defense is really bad. I mean, it was eye-opening last week to watch them against the Bills, who were without both tackles, without Kincaid, and they ran the same rushing play 27 times, and it worked almost every single time. They didn't adjust. They couldn't do anything. They have defensive injuries now. Is this a game where the Ravens can just do the same and just hand it off to Henry, use their backs? It might be. Now, the Ravens offense, in fairness, and Rodgers is a mess. I mean, he has a minus 13.6 completion percentage over expectations since week 10. That's dead last among every quarterback. I mean, Gabriel, McCarthy, Brosner, you name them. They haven't completed a pass longer than 20 yards in a month. And he has a hand injury now, so they're always in pistol, and it's predictable, and their receivers can't get separation. It's a mess. Now, the Ravens can't get pressure on defense, so maybe that's a reprieve. But and the one thing I will say is the Ravens offense is also a mess because Lamar isn't healthy. And I mean, if you look at some of his numbers since he came back, I mean, he's second worst in the league in catchable ball rate, third worst in on target rate when he's not being pressured. Those are troubling signs, and that's because, it's the hamstring, a knee, a toe, an ankle. But the Ravens might be able to just line it up here and run the ball all over Pittsburgh, and their offense is a mess. And you're right, like the Steelers have done a really good job containing Lamar and his legs, but that's not really his game at the moment. And the Ravens do have upside in their offense in that there is going to be a point where Lamar does get healthier, and he keeps saying he's getting closer. And then once that happens, I think this offense is going to take off. I don't see what the upside is with the Steelers offense. Like it's what, 42-year-old Rodgers now with the weather getting colder and colder and a hurt hand. And they just went out and got Adam Thielen. Like that's when you know it's bad. So
he can't brace on sacks because the arm, you're holding the ball in the one hand, you naturally it's just a human reaction. Whether you and me are playing pickup football out on the grass or whether you're playing NFL football, even that play with Joey Bosa, he's kind of limp. And, you're just kind of, you're kind of,
I wouldn't be shocked if there's a couple turnovers here.
Yeah. Which I respect at 42 years old with, I'm sure, hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank. He does not need to be doing this, but he signed up, and I think there's some pride in him. To even come back into that game, it's like, what is he doing? But he doesn't want to let down. Like he signed up for Tomlin, and now he's compromised. It does just feel like this thing's unraveling. And for the first time, there's like substance behind. Like this could really kind of be the end of this coaching era for this guy.
Yeah, I mean they're 6-6. There's a huge game in the division. Now they play each other again. They play in the last game of the year. And the Steelers do have games against the Dolphins and the Browns left. So maybe they find a way to get the 9-8 again, which would be very fitting. It just needs – look, Tomlin's a great coach. He's never had a losing record, great motivator. But there comes a time when I think it would be best for him and the organization to part ways. The voice, sometimes you need a new voice. And the Steelers need to just stop going 9-8 because they need a franchise quarterback. Otherwise, they're just going to be stuck in purgatory forever at 8-9, 9-8 with no chance of winning a playoff game, a Super Bowl. And that's where they're at now. They're like a couple weeks ago, they're talking about Rodgers coming back next year. It's like, if I was a Steelers fan, it's fun that you're in it and like in the playoff race, in the division race all the time, but you don't feel like you ever have a chance to win it all. And that's ultimately the goal in this whole gig. And the Steelers eventually need to blow it up, which is why I said at the time, like, I don't know why. I know they had to do it, but I wouldn't have given Watt all of that money because you just need a reset and you need to find your quarterback. But so my fan of me says this is going to be close because that's all Ravens-Steelers games ever are. But it's hard for me to see the Steelers offense. And then their defense, their run D is so bad. There's so many issues. So I don't hate your look there.
The Rodgers thing, they didn't really have a choice. There weren't any other options. But the Watt thing is going to be the DK Metcalf move is devastating. To give him that much money in a second.
Well, then you're watching Pickens become like the best receiver in the NFL.
Well, so the swap out there, they gave, like, when you are paying a bunch of people a lot of money, you don't have that much wiggle room. So when you give a guy a 1 year, $10 million deal like they did to Slay, that's pretty important for that guy, even if he's not a Pro Bowler, to be like a legit solid start. He didn't make it to December. He was in a healthy scratch by Thanksgiving. It's like that's a disastrous personnel move, and it's just their personnel moves. And I put something on Twitter, and people are like, "Well, Kevin Colbert was bad the last couple of years." For most of his run, that organization was viewed like the Ravens, like the Packers, just one of the most consistent. They know
The
what they're doing.
drafters.
They don't feel like that right now. They
Agreed.
feel really out of whack. So I love the Ravens. Another team.
Well, they're trying because they're stuck in like the middle.
They're trying to maintain it.
Yeah, and they're trying to just like do these band-aids, and it's just not going to work.
Turns out Collinsworth was right the way that he was pronouncing Mariota, and Mariota got his back saying that's the actual way to pronounce it, though I just say Mariota. He actually looked pretty good on Sunday Night Football. My simple logic is this: if JJ McCarthy is starting a game against a team with just some capable players, I'm going to take the other team and taking Washington plus 2.5. Listen, I just think this JJ thing, you get to a situation where they'll start, and Minnesota's less likely to boo than like, let's say a Philly or some of these other places. That place is going to be on tilt if he goes 3 and out a couple times of like, this is a disastrous situation. Most people, like, listen, he's not the first guy to say, hey, I got a headache or whatever on the plane ride home or the next day. So I'm not going to say that he made that up. But there just been two kind of, all of a sudden this guy's injured after just disastrous performances. And coming back, he obviously hasn't played much football. When he has, he's been awful. I could just see like all of a sudden he's just going to look good. I mean, I have a hard time seeing that. So I'm hammering Washington in this game.
I played the Vikings, but at a much different number. I can't blame you for fading McCarthy. I mean, this line opened as with the Commanders a favorite. And this is my case for the Vikings. And the rebuttal can just be McCarthy's not going to hit.
That's my logic. I'm just against JJ McCarthy. So
yeah, but I'm saying like you could just say McCarthy's not going to hit a wide open pass because the Commanders can't get pressure. Their defense has been a little better since Quinn took over. They're playing more zone. He simplified some things, but it's still a really bad defense. Like they're dead last in dropback EPA. They cannot get any pressure anymore because they don't have any players left on the defensive line. They have no edge rushers. So there's going to be opportunities for McCarthy to hit wide open receivers. Can he hit them? I don't know. So far, he's shown that he can't do it consistently. But like the Vikings, their defense is still very formidable. It's still a really good home field advantage. This is the first road game for the Commanders in 41 days. They're coming off a devastating overtime loss. Their defense is on the field. There's so many plays in that game. There's a chance Daniels is going to play at quarterback. I actually think that would be a bad thing. He's struggled against the blitz. He's been off for so long. Mariota's numbers have actually been better than Daniels. They've had the same amount of snaps this year. Not to say Mariota is better, but this year Daniels has just had like a little bit of a sophomore slump. He never got in rhythm with his receivers. There's been so many injuries, and now coming back from a long absence facing that Vikings defense, that could be problematic. But I do think now that this number is jumped, it's not the same. But originally, I was like, this is the bottom of the market on the Vikings. And for what it's worth, teams off of getting shut out historically have hit at about 60% against the spread the next week. I mean, who wants to play the team that just got shut out? You might get a point or two of value. And in fairness to the Vikings, they were 3-2 before the bye week, and then after their bye, they played the Eagles. Arguably should have won. At the Chargers, at the Lions, they won that game with McCarthy. Ravens, Bears, at Packers, at Seahawks. That's been their last 7 games. Vicious. So now this is definitely more of a break. So yeah, I did play some early Vikings, but you can just say McCarthy favored over whatever, it's Mariota or Daniels. No way. He hasn't shown that he can complete even wide open passes consistently in NFL. And historically, team quarterbacks coming off of a concussion, there is a dip in production. So I could see the case for the Commanders, but I do have some Vikings in my Scared about it? Yes. I also bet the Raiders. Am I scared about that? Yes. Um, but yeah,
I don't
I
even
took
know
some
who are the
Raiders.
Raiders even playing.
The Broncos, they're catching 8. Home divisional dog above a touchdown historically, 56, 57%, usually a good bet. Total when the total's below 42, 70% historically. I just don't trust this Broncos offense. Now, do I trust the Raiders? Offensive line's a disaster. Geno Smith's a disaster. It's all a disaster. But this Broncos offense will go in like Bo Nix will just be completely, he can't complete a pass for quarters. It's very difficult for them to build margin. They're games away from home this year. They lost to the Chargers and the Colts. They beat the Eagles by 4, crazy comeback. The Jets by 2. It was 12-10. The Jets had negative 10 passing yards. They won by 2. The Texans by 3, crazy comeback when Stroud got hurt against Davis Mills. And then Washington by 1 in overtime. So they're 4-2 with a plus 6-point differential on the road. They haven't won a game by more than 4 away from home. So, and their defense is coming off a game where they're on the field for 100 plays in overtime and prime time. Now, another road game. You should get the Raiders' best effort. And these two teams played in Denver with the Raiders coming off of an overtime game where their defense on the field 90 plays on a short week. Teams were 6-26 against the spread in this spot. Short week going to altitude, and the Raiders lost 10-7. That was the score in the first meeting. So it's horrible. But I did bet the Raiders plus 8.
Well, my last hammer is the Saints that fit that criteria because the over-under is 41.5. You know, you look at the Tampa, obviously they had that struggle, that 3-game losing streak where they were in shambles. I mean, it's not like they blew out the Cardinals last week. Now, in fairness, the Cardinals are going to be like one of the truly great 4-13 teams of all time because they've been in like the overwhelming
They
majority
lose
of
every
the
game by
games.
3.
Yeah, so I'm just taking the Saints here plus 8.5, and it's more of a bet against Tampa that, you know, the injuries. Obviously, Baker hasn't been right all year. You know, once he kind of got banged up, it looked like an MVP there through like a month, which at the time you get him like 25-1 coming into. I think it was actually 50-1 coming into the season, then went down to like 25-20-1. Now he's got really no chance, even though the MVP discussion is really wide open. Uh, I just listen. I'm not going to be some big believer in the Saints. They've got 2 wins, but feels like a number that's very, very coverable.
Bucks offense has quietly been a disaster. I mean, since week 9, they're 24th in EPA per play.
Why do you think that is?
A lot. I don't think Baker's fully healthy. I mean, last week against, you mentioned the Cardinals outgained them 386 to 279, 6.3 yards per play. Bucks 4.9.
Cardinals aren't bad. They're
No,
just
they're not.
not.
But I'm saying the Bucks should have lost that game
Yeah.
statistically. Their offense wasn't great, and I mean, there's just been so many injuries with the Bucks, right? So you had all the injuries in the backfield, the offensive line, wide receiver, Baker's been banged up. So it's all just added up, and the operation is just broken right now. Now, is there at some point an inflection point where, like, as they get healthier, you're going to start to see that offense trend up? Maybe this is at the bottom as far as the market on their offense, maybe. But until I see further evidence, yeah, I have no interest in wanting to lay 8.5 with Tampa. Now, the Saints won't be able to run the ball at all. Like, they'll have 0 rushing yards in this game. So it's just going to be Chuck against the blitz, having to throw it, which is a bit concerning. But the Saints defense is feisty enough to keep them in this game. I don't have anything on it as of now.
Tampa kind of needs to win. I mean, you lose, you're 7-6. Carolina 7-6. You still play them twice. Carolina would have nothing to lose, right? They got house money. You know, there's all the pressure would be on Tampa in those games. This could get weird. I mean, this obviously, you know, it must win when you're playing bad teams, but like when you're just not playing well, would it shock you if it's like 10-10 in the third quarter or something?
Yeah, I mean, last year in week 18, in Tampa, the Bucks needed to win, and they were playing Spencer Rattler. And
crazy comeback when he took off on the run, right?
They were down 19-13 in the fourth quarter and won 27-19. Like, they were on the brink of losing that game. So yeah, that's the Panthers win over the Rams was enormous for many reasons. I mean, the one seed in the NFC, where how seeding breaks, but also that division race. Like they were 10-point dogs. You assume that they were going to lose that game. Them picking that win up with 2 meetings with the Bucs left makes that division race very, very interesting. Especially since the Panthers they have a bye than the Saints, and they have a game. They host the Seahawks, and then they have 2 games against the Bucs. So, yeah, that division race is going to be super interesting. I'm excited. There's been a lot of boring games in the NFL this year because there's just a lot more. There's more parity at the top overall. I mean, think about the AFC. The AFC, there's a world where Lamar, Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen all missed the playoffs. But there's a lot more parity at the top. But there's a lot more just the bottom is bad. So you get just some really bad football games. But now, this stretch run over the last 5 weeks is going to be really exciting. I mean, just this weekend is going to set. I mean, this weekend could decide so many things. You have Ravens Steelers, which could decide the division and a playoff spot, with the loser potentially being out. We're recording this on a Thursday, so you'll know the result already. But Cowboys-Lions could be an elimination game in the NFC playoffs. You have Colts.
It definitely is for the. I mean, Lions lose, the Niners, Bears would feel like they're both in, right?
Yep. Yeah, and the Cowboys. I mean, they're 6-5-1. They got to pretty much.
They got to win the division.
Win out and win the division. Eagles. I mean, they have a tough schedule, and Jalen Carter looks like he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Was just
what happened to him? I must have missed that.
I know. Yeah, that came out like half hour ago. He's going to have surgery.
Wow.
So that definitely hurts their defense. Not a position that they have a ton of depth at, but
well, and he's just such a difference-making player because
such a different fan. He demands so much attention. But I mean, that game Monday night, Eagles-Chargers. Eagles lose, Cowboys win. That division gets a lot shakier. I mean, Eagles play the Commanders twice more. Daniels will be back. They go to the Bills. All of a sudden, it gets shaky for them. Chargers in the AFC, they lose this game. They're 8-4 now. They lose this game. They go to 8-5. You have the Herbert hand question. You still don't have an offensive line. Their remaining schedule is at the Chiefs, at the Cowboys, home against the Texans, at the Broncos. All of a sudden, that gets really dicey. You have the Texans-Chiefs. Is that Sunday night? That's potentially an elimination game. If Chiefs could lose, they go to 6-7 on the year, and they don't have a tiebreaker over anyone ahead of them. They've lost almost every other team that they would be batting for. Bears, Packers for first place. I mean, just awesome high leverage, playoff leverage games this weekend. So the NFL is going to get really good from now all the way through the Super Bowl.
Well, let's talk about a couple of the big games. Indy at Jacksonville. Indy's leaking some serious oil. Sauce is now out. Their quarterback obviously shelved himself even before he got injured once he started getting hit. And now it's not going to be the same. It's not like I love Jacksonville, but this is one of those games. Indy could be in trouble, assuming I like Houston at Kansas City. Just that their ability to rush the passer. Simmons now is on IR, right, with a broken wrist. So, and that would have been a tough matchup for a rookie against those pass rushers in general. So there's going to be a drop off there. If Houston wins, like to me, Houston, if they take care of business against Kansas City, they just need these two teams when they play to somehow split, is the way I've looked at it. I don't know if you look at it differently. I have some futures on Houston to win this division. It's still alive. They got to win, but they just need whoever wins this game and then that other team to win the other game when they play each other. And then I just think that defense is just ferocious. That is the best unit of these 3 teams. Would you agree?
Yes. And they host the Cardinals and Raiders next. So
this is their season. They just got to go to Kansas City and win.
Yep. Find a way to win. A team they haven't been able to beat. But yeah, I mean, the Chiefs have other offensive line injuries as well. I haven't seen their injury report, but Trey Smith, their stud right guard, Taylor got banged up last week. So you could have 3 hurt offensive linemen against that defensive line. Could be trouble. And the Texans' offense is improving. Like Woody Marks gives them some juice out of the backfield. Their offensive line has been getting better. And then when Nico Collins was out, these other receivers were able to kind of step up, build confidence, and like a guy like Higgins So their entire offense operation is improving. So the Texans are a really dangerous team. If you're in the AFC, you don't want to see the Texans in the playoffs. You don't want to see that defense that they will be in every game because of it. So yeah, they're super live to win the division, but this game, they're not out of it if they lose it, but it's going to be very tough. And then the Chiefs so they lose their 6 and 7. They could get the 10 and 7, but that doesn't guarantee anything. Yeah, this might be lights out for the Chiefs, especially they have no tie. They lose every tiebreaker with everyone. I mean, they lost to the Jags, they lost to the Bills, they would have lost to the Texans, like basically just the Colts. So yeah, I taking the 3.5, find a 3.5 there, I think makes sense. These are also the two best under teams in the NFL over the past 3 years. Texans unders are just a cash cow. I mean, they're 31 and 15 of the under over the past 3 years, 67.5%. The next best under team is the Chiefs, 30 and 16, 65%. The Chiefs unders at home over the past 3 years, 17 and 6. They just go on these, and this is what they're going to have to do this on Sunday night. They're going to have to go on these long, and they can do this at home. They go on these long methodical drives where it's like dink and dunk and dink and dunk, and then 3rd and 1, run it. That's what they're going to have to do because Mahomes not going to have any time here and no protection. So I don't mind the under. I don't mind taking the Texans there. Yeah, Texans are a very dangerous team.
The Chiefs, actually, if they lose this game, this is crazy to say, are better off just finishing 7 and 10 because that would give them a position. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, the Chiefs have the 14th pick. They could kind of reset the run, because they've been drafting every single year, 30, 31, 32. All of a sudden, you're drafting 14. That's every round. Maybe the first round of each goes from 14 to like 8 to get some incredible pass rusher or something. You could just kind of reset your franchise with some players who are cheap that they just haven't. I mean, they've taken swings on Worthy, who Worthy had to play in that Sunday night game, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago. It's like, he's good, but he's not quite. I mean, it's clear he's not Deshaun Jackson or Tyreek Hill or whatever. It's just, but that's what happens when you draft at the end of the round. So you just don't have the act. They would be the first to say it's pretty crazy that Josh Simmons is sitting there. I mean, we all agreed. I mean, there were some question marks with his injury and some other stuff, but he was like one of the more talented players in the draft, right? Typically, they're going to be picking from Xavier Worthy or Keon Coleman, right? Well, that's not the case if you're drafting 14th. And I just think that they are picking from a litter of players that way. And who knows, maybe the last couple of weeks, you just kind of, it's not worth getting Mahomes a major injury. And when you're out of it, they've never been in this position, obviously, honestly, since Andy's been there, because they've just been good. But this is the first time where it's like, okay, you ran out of gas. I don't look at them any differently. I mean, they lost some crazy games this year. It's not like some indictment on the run, I think. It just was a year that didn't go their way.
I mean, last year they were 11-0 in one-possession games. This year, they've lost by 6, 3, 3, 7, 3, and 3. So they're 1-6 in one-possession games this year.
I mean, their defense clearly just doesn't quite have the same oomph. They're missing a couple players. Karlaftis
don't get the same pressure.
Not quite the same player I think they had hoped that he was going to continue to become.
Yeah. Now, I agree with you, but if they win this game, and just the narrative, and rightfully so, will change drastically for both these teams, depending on the outcome here. If they win this game, they're 7 and 6, and the remaining schedule is you got revenge against the Chargers at home with a banged up Herbert, no offensive line. At the Titans, revenge against the Broncos at home, at the Raiders. To win this game, all of a sudden it's looking
they're alive.
Decent chance you're going 11 and 6, and the Chiefs are back in the playoffs, and they're always going to be dangerous in the playoffs. So, but if you lose, the best you can get is 10 and 7. I'm not sure that gets you in the playoffs in the AFC. So, especially because you're going to lose every tiebreaker. So yeah, huge game for both teams. And then what was the other game you mentioned first?
Indy Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the Jags. Look, the Colts defense is not the same without Sauce Gardner. He's lockdown corner, was going to make, with Ward and Kenny Moore, they were going to have one of the best corner groups in the NFL. Without him, they just don't have the same flexibility. They're also not the same group without DeForest Buckner in the middle. With DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart in the lineup versus when one of them's not on the field, they give up 1 yard more per rush. So if both of them are on the field, they're allowing 1 yard fewer per rush. And that's important against the Jags. Basically, with the Jags, you want, and any Liam Combs team, you want to say first, can they run the ball? And if they're able to run the ball, everything else stems from that. and they have one of the best, most dynamic, well-schemed running games in the NFL. And then you have Daniel Jones, who's playing with a broken leg, doesn't have that same lateral movement, taking more sacks now, and it's just not going well. I mean, they're lucky that they beat the Falcons in overtime. Otherwise, they would have lost 4 straight. And their schedule is brutal coming down the stretch. I mean, the Colts lose this game, you can make a case that they don't win another game. I mean, they're at Seattle, they got San Fran, Jacksonville again, then at Houston. So they could go from looking like the 1 seed a month ago to missing the playoffs very quickly if they don't win this game. And it's a place where they haven't won very often over the past 10 years. The Jags, I think they're a decent team. They're not a great team. They do have some good wins this year. I mean, look, they beat the Texans. They beat the Chiefs at home. They won at San Fran when they were healthier. They dominated the Chargers. They've been much better at home. And Jacoby Myers has been an amazing addition. He's not dropping the ball. He's providing juice to the offense. They got Brenton Strange back. I do want to see the injury report for the Jags. Armstead, Travon Walker, Olakon, Devin Lloyd, they all are banged up. You want that full complement of your defensive front to not only stop Jonathan Taylor, but to get after Jones with his hurt leg. So I think the injury report for the Jags, very critical. Huge game. I think it's more of a toss-up. I don't mind anyone taking the points if you wanted to tease the Jags. I don't have a strong feel on it. There's a lot of injuries that I'm watching for the Jags as of right now.
You think it's a good indictment on Anthony Richardson? They'd rather roll with Daniel Jones on a broken leg than him?
Yeah.
Not ideal.
Not great. And then you have Packers Bears.
Yeah, let's hit on that. I mean, a couple weeks ago, hell, a month ago, I would have been like, I'm going to hammer the Green Bay. It does feel like the Bears. I mean, we get these type teams every once in a while. Minnesota was like this. That Kirk Cousins year when they, I think, won 12 games.
Yeah, a Big Ben at the end of his career when they were they started like 11-0.
Just a scary team to bet against. It's going to be hard, obviously, for the Bears, but I mean, Ben Johnson, I mean, that performance he had on Thursday was unreal. I mean, that made Eagles fans go, what is happening to us? I think Canales saw that and was like, I should just copy that and run the ball a little bit more. It's like, yeah, Dave, you should. And Ben Johnson, he's the Midwest Kyle Shanahan. You don't see many of these young coaches in college or the pros that are play callers, that are the head coach, that consistently, like, I would rather run it 40 times a game than pass it 50. And he would rather, even if Caleb Williams was the best quarterback in the league, I don't think his philosophical belief on how to play football would change, which I respect, because those days we just don't really have them anymore. I mean, even Sean Payton, it's like, Sean, call some more runs for your guy. But these guys like to pass. I mean, listen, I love Coach Reed. Coach Reed, if you had to give him a choice, he would throw it every time if he could, and it's just a lot of these coaches like passing the ball more. And Ben Johnson not only likes calling runs, he's a great run schemer. I mean, some of the breakdowns of using those tight ends and motions, and like, it was incredible, that performance he had on against Philly. But he's done that all year long, running the ball. So I just think that this is going to be a really fun matchup. I guess I would have to take the Bears. This is a stay away from me. I just can't wait to watch this game. But Ben Johnson has been a fucking stud this year.
I mean, look at the Lions. Part of the reason, I know their interior offensive line isn't as good, but their run game all year has not been anywhere close to what it was. Their offense hasn't been operating anywhere close to what it was. And a lot of that, and look at the Bears. Their run game, I mean, especially over the past month, has been dominant. And that will always make them a scary dog. Now, their defense has benefited from extreme turnover luck, like plus 17 turnover margin. They even did it last week. They got the tush-push strip.
Have the Eagles ever even fumbled on that play? Like in their heyday? It doesn't feel like they really have.
No, they did it once. I forget the game, but the refs like blew it dead, but it really was a fumble. This is against the Giants, I think.
Oh, yeah, it was. Shane, my producer.
So, yeah, I mean, their run game is incredible. Now, their defense is very bad. They have injuries at linebacker. They can't get pressure. But they've survived without – I mean, they got getting Jalen Johnson, getting Kyler Gordon back. They were able to develop some depth in the secondary, and they held up. You have to give them credit for the wins, and now they've become a scary team. But the Packers are also a scary team, and they've started to figure out their offense a bit post craft. And I think, you might get Jaden Reed back. Christian Watson, I think him coming back has really given juice to the offense.
He's looked good.
Yeah, they should be able to move the ball on the Bears. Am I rushing to lay 6.5 against a team they should have success running the ball against Packers? I mean, they're going to have success running against everyone. And I mean, the Packers now lost Wyatt, another defensive lineman, to a season-ending injury. So I think it should be a really good game. I think the Packers eventually win, but would it shock me if the Bears do? No. Huge game in the division, though. Winner of this in the driver's seat. And
when you say the Bears, I mean, would be in pretty good shape given that tie is kind of a swing. They'd have 2 more wins than the Packers if they win this game.
Yeah, and they'd play again, but it would be they host the Packers. Now the Bears do have a tough schedule, but if they win this game,
the 49er game is like, how are the 49ers going to stop their run game?
Their 49ers got to score. I don't know how that game doesn't go over the total, by the way. Both teams should just move it at will. Should be like an offensive clinic on both sides. So yeah, the Bears after this, they do get the Browns at home. And they're the 1 seed in the NFC as of the time we're talking right now. But then they get the host of Packers at San Fran. Then you get the host Jared Goff outdoors at the end. So you win this game, it looks a lot better. If you lose it, then you're looking at that schedule a little differently. So, and the Packers will be in the driver's seat for the division. So yeah, really excited to watch that game. Just a lot of great games in the NFL this week.
Okay, let's end with the Monday night game. You mentioned, Herbert had the surgery. I mean, do you expect him to have like a cast similar to Rodgers type deal?
Yeah, I think that they'll have to go shotgun. I mean, they usually go shotgun. I don't know, 80% of the time.
So you expect him to play though?
I do, but I don't know for sure.
Harbaugh's weird with that. It's hard to get much information out of him.
Yeah, it is a huge game for the Chargers. I just listed their schedule, like their schedule now. They've had a really easy schedule so far. Now it's one of the hardest. So I think they've come out. They said they're going to use like Trey Lance in like goal line packages. So he's going to get snaps regardless. I assume they're just going to be in shotgun all the time. So does that make their offense more predictable? Like we saw how that worked with Aaron Rodgers, and you don't have an offensive line. Now Jalen Carter being out, that's very helpful to that offensive line. That's a massive, massive loss for Philadelphia. The one guy in their defense that they really couldn't afford to lose. He just commands so much attention. They don't have great depth there. And he's just a game wrecker. And this Eagles offense, it's still broken. I don't see how they can fix it. Every week they go almost a half without scoring. It doesn't matter. I mean, the Bears defense has not been good all year. Couldn't run it against the Bears. Their offensive line, there's no Lane Johnson. Offensive line hasn't been as good in the interior. I think they missed Becton. They've just been beat up too on the offensive line. They can't figure out zones. Well, they're going to get a ton of that against the Chargers defense. So, yeah, the Herbert injury throws a wrench into this. But like every week, you got to look at an Eagles under. I don't know how you could ever bet an Eagles over because their defense is still good, and their offense will just die for a half plus. And it's hard to see this Chargers offense doing, with a hurt Herbert, that offensive line doing a ton. So I would lean at taking the points too, but the Herbert uncertainty makes it tough. But big game for both teams.
Well, if you're Philly, you lose. You just obviously at the Bills. If I'm giving them a loss there, you would have given them wins against the Raiders and the 2 Commanders games. But I can
see them dropping one to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Then it starts getting weird. Then you just can't trust them playing whoever they're playing, besides like the Titans. You're like, I don't know. This thing, it's got some similarities and parallels of a couple years ago when it all kind of unraveled. And I've been saying this for a while. When you have this bubbling weirdness with your just 2-star marquee guys, I just think it's hard to hide that. And then the Petula thing, the way the fans, like, listen, it looked like young kids egging his house. It wasn't some indictment on like the city. You know, I mean, I'd be lying if I hadn't egged a few homes in my heyday.
Houses.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, welcome to 17-year-old kids. But I just think we know the pressure in that organization. If they lose this thing, there's just so much pressure, and listen, Sirianni has proven to like be able to handle and be a leader, but he ultimately doesn't call the plays or anything. So it's like what? Okay, he can. It's kind of like the Tomlin thing. Like he's a great rally the troops guy, but If the fucking offense ain't gaining yards, the offense ain't gaining yards. It's like nothing. He can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this is the Eagles every other year. This used to be like the San Francisco Giants. What was it
Yeah.
like odd years or even years? They would go to the
Yeah, it
World
was
Series.
11 and 13. They won the World Series 3 out of 5 years and missed the
Yeah.
playoffs in the other two.
So like they have an offensive coordinator every other year. This is like Brian Johnson 2.0. And yeah,
You
I don't
giving
know
me the
what the fix
stats? He's
is.
worse than Brian Johnson. I remember
Yes,
like a month
worst
ago.
against zone. There's no creativity in the offense. They don't use. There's no motion, no play action. It's just it's bad. So yeah, so if they lose this game, you give them a win over the Raiders. We'll say they lose at the Bills, and I mean especially if Carter's out for weeks. So then they're at 8-6, and if excuse me 9-6. So if you split with Washington, you finish 10-7. And the question is, like, that's not getting you a wild card in the NFC. Can the Cowboys catch them? So if the Cowboys, they're 6-5-1, the best that the Cowboys can finish is 11-5-1. I doubt they're going to win out, but if they beat the Lions, all of a sudden they're 7-5-1. And I mean, they're playing very well. Their defense is trending up.
I win the division if I'm 10-6-1, and you're 10-7, right?
Yes. So they'd have to just get the 10. Yeah, you're right. They just have to get the 10 wins. So if they win tonight, they're at 7. Can they host the Vikings next? They host the Chargers. Then they're at the Commanders and at the Giants. It's doable.
Winnable games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to get interesting. You're right. This has, because I get some DMs like, has this season been shittier? I'm like, there definitely have been stretches where there's been bad mornings and afternoons. Like there have been some rough games. Love football as much as anyone, but there have been some rough Sundays. There's no disputing. There's been some rough primetime games. There's just been bad games, but at least they matter now. So I'd even argue in college football, there's been some stretches where it's been a weird football season, even though historic ratings, more people watch it, more people talk about it, which is awesome for our business. Games, I would like a little more action, but part of that is some of these teams are just shitty. They're just awful. And then, like you said, some of the good teams, the parity at top makes them kind of hit or miss, right? So the Packers went through a stretch where they were rough. The Eagles are going through a stretch when they're rough. The Ravens. I mean, most years, even a random Ravens team would be 9-3 right now, right? The Bills are a team that's 8-4.
Yeah, it's been an ugly year, but it's about to get good. We're gonna get paid off for suffering through some of the bad football we've watched.
Well, thanks for firing us up, Stuckey, and let's enjoy the weekend and let's buckle in here to the home stretch. And you got a baby here. What next couple weeks?
22nd is induction date, so it's gonna be interesting.
I get asked all the time, like, "Are you ready?" I'm like, I mean, I guess. I mean, ask her. Like, she's the one. The baby's getting hiccups and kicking her. It's much
the hiccups. I didn't
me.
know. I found that out yesterday that there's hiccups. When is your date?
Like middle of January. So hopefully, like a Wednesday, ideally, if he could come, like Tuesday or Wednesday of one of those playoff weeks.
Yeah, we're inducing on a Monday.
So you already know.
Yeah, the 22nd. So it's will be a busy week, but I'll still
People
be here.
ask like, are you going on maternity? I'm like, well, it's not like this isn't a normal job, so it's like
I can't pause sports.
Yeah, it's like I might have to miss depending on the date, maybe like a Saturday or Sunday, but I don't just disappear for a month. That's not the way this thing works.
The day of, I will not be able to do anything, but other than that, it's business as usual.
I hear you. Okay, Stuckey, thanks, bro.
Absolutely. Have a good one.